Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Metis Warrior here with Timothy and Alexandra.
Hello everybody.
So today, we're going to reiterate the fact that we are the Metis Warrior Media Group and we bring you news across the Metis Nation. So it is okay to disagree with some of the opinions of our guests. It's okay to want to have healthy debates. Where it becomes not okay is when someone issues physical threats, physical harm against one of our guests and against someone who is a Metis government official, such as this person, Janelle Keller. Now, on Will Goodon's post, now this is the people that Will Goodon has aligned himself with clearly, because they're posting comments on his post, and at no point in time was this individual corrected at all on this post of physical threat. This is criminal, folks. A criminal physical threat issued to our Métis government official out there in the Métis Nation of British Columbia. And this is Janelle Keller. We're currently researching this individual because this is a serious matter. And so let us read the threat that Janelle Keller has actually issued. Janelle Keller, I think some of your citizens should take that weird. Do out a rabbit punch back of the head. Now this is calling, and I want to put the definition of a rabbit punch out there so y'all know what kind of physical threat this criminal comment is. That to do out a rabbit punch back of the head. So right here, let's take a look at what a rabbit punch is, okay? A rabbit punch is a blow to the back of the head or to the base of the skull. It is considered especially dangerous because it can damage the cervical vertebrae and subsequently the spinal cord, which may lead to serious and irreparable spinal cord injury. And folks, this can kill instantly. So not only is this a threat of physical harm that was made against Lewis, this is also a death threat. You can look at this as a death threat that is made on a Métis government official. Folks, this is criminal. Criminal on all levels. This is criminal. There's a difference between healthy debate, heated debate, and criminal activity. This Janelle Keller has committed criminal activity by issuing a death threat, a call for a death threat on one of our guests and actually on one of the Métis members and Métis board member in Métis British Columbia. And so this is behavior that Will Goodon has left on his wall in the comments section. Absolutely, Will Goodon should be resigning right now, not just because of this, but because of also his fraudulent behavior during the Métis Nation of British Columbia's meeting, where he was very disruptive and trying to obtain minutes into the meeting under a different name, and we covered that in other shows. So yeah. All right. So now that you know what a rabbit punch is, we know how serious of a threat that this person is making. So again, we do not know, other than a profile picture of a pickup truck, much. We do know the relatives that's listed. We do know that there's a photo on there of someone also, but we do not know actually the photo of the person that's running this. And if you look again, scroll down, it says he's full of shit. And then there's a comment in there from someone. We're just blurring out that comment. We didn't have to do it, but we're going to do it because we're focusing on this individual that's doing the physical threat. Again, this Janelle Keller says, yes, I call for a rabbit punch. Where can I find this guy? So again, this is something that's serious, folks. It's okay to have healthy debates. It is not okay to physically, criminally threaten someone out there, physical harm. And again, this is wrong on all levels.
And I think what's even more wrong and something that should maybe take you aback, Minister Will Goodon is part of the government of the Manitoba Métis Federation. And for Minister Will Goodon to allow this post threatening physical harm, to allow it to remain on his personal wall, says a lot about Minister Will Goodon, his lack of integrity. Really, you're inciting physical harm. This is not the qualities of a leader of a Métis government to allow these type of posts inciting physical harm to remain on his personal page. To me, that's absolutely disgusting. And this is the caliber of people that Minister Will Goodon is surrounding himself around.
Now, this was brought to our attention, this comment that's on Will Goodon's post, and it's just sad that Will Goodon has not publicly said that this was wrong. And again, we are calling for the resignation of Will Goodon. He should actually resign because he was very disruptive to the Métis Nation of British Columbia's AGM by trying to sneak into the meeting. We've already addressed that. Go back and listen to other shows. And that's not all, folks. We've invited Will Goodon on our show several times. He's refused to come on to the show to answer questions that we have, questions on corruption, questions on some of the lies that's been told to the Métis people in Manitoba. We have questions of fraud. We have a lot of questions that Will Goodon has just refused, flat out refused to come on and answer. And why is that? Because we are not the chapstick media. Now, let me break it down for you. If you don't like harsh words or whatever, cover your ears. But what chapstick media means is that's the kiss your ass media. And so we're not the kiss your ass media. We're not the chapstick media. So if in the future when you hear us refer to anything chapstick related, that means to kiss the ass, right? So we're going to ask the hard questions. We're not going to pucker up and put on chapstick and start kissing ass out there because we need money, etc., whatever. No, you're not going to buy your way out of being asked questions. So with that being said, Will Goodon needs to resign. He's not the only one. There's corruption throughout leadership of the MMF. There's corruption throughout leadership, obviously, that we displayed in full force throughout the MNC. And so, knowing that, we've demanded answers. And Alexandria will tell you, as a card-holding member of the MMF, she has every right to question her government. That's number one, which is the MMF. Number two is, as the Metis Warrior Media Group, a news outlet for the Métis people, we have a right to let the news get out there to the Métis all across the Métis Nation and inform the people of just what's going on. Now, can people change? Yes, people can change. Here's the thing. I see no willingness to change because I just see more of the same. I just see, instead of representing the Métis, like Will Goodon, instead of attacking people who disagree with you, if you're in a government position, shouldn't you be representing all Métis, whether they agree with you or disagree with you? Shouldn't that be your role, is to represent all Métis instead of supporting these threats? And I say supporting because it's still on your wall. People can go to Will Goodon's wall and read this threat of physical harm against Lewis, our guest. So you can find these comments on this post on Will Goodon's wall. So, okay, let's address some things he's saying here. I'm not sure why Lewis insists on going on this unbelievable show. Will, what makes this show unbelievable? The fact that we're asking for transparency? The fact that we're fighting corruption? The fact that we're questioning fraud? Will Goodon, instead of supporting your MMF members, what do? You go on and attack the show that's actually fighting for transparency and fighting against corruption.
What is unbelievable, Will Goodon, as myself as a long-standing member of the Manitoba Métis Federation, you are not answering questions. I have a right to question my Métis governing body, and certainly instead of answering the hard questions, what do? You block a long-standing Manitoba Métis Federation member. That's unbelievable.
And so he says this shows terrible political smarts. Will, What shows terrible political smarts is the fact that you are not transparent. The fact that what you decided to do was use another name to try to access the MNBC meeting, the AGM, and try to sneak into the meeting. And that will be reflected during these elections and the upcoming elections. You'll see what shows terrible political smarts. Then you say 2 times on Metis Warrior. Well, who in the hell are you to say who can come on to our show and when they can come on to our show? And then he says, promotes one episode where I was slandered repeatedly. Will, you find your own actions so disgusting and repulsing that you thought that that was slander? We were reporting what the hell you did, man. You tried to sneak in to the AGM under a different name after clearly you was informed you were not wanted there, period.
What is more unbelievable is that you have yet to answer the question why you used another name to try and enter the MNBC AGM. You've never answered that question. That's unbelievable. Do you see a pattern, folks, where Will Goodon doesn't want to answer the hard questions?
And then what does he do in one of the posts that's on his wall as well? He said, this show may contain something that's illegal. Now, he did that to scare people from trying to share it, right? Because that's the scare tactic that he likes to put up there. And you're full of crap, Will. It doesn't contain anything illegal, so that's a bunch of garbage. But let's go on and look at his other comment here. He says, now he's talking about Lewis here when he says, and defends David Bouchard, who was denied citizenship in the MNBC because he is not Métis. Where in the hell did Lewis defend David Bouchard? I am not aware of that. I am not aware of that.
Well, you know, that's just another tactic that Will Goodon deflect. Instead of answering the hard questions, he throws something into the mix that is totally unrelevant to what is being spoken of.
Exactly. Deflection and trying to guide people to focus on something else. And then he says, these are not one-offs. This is a pattern of being an ally with people who promote mixed Métis equals Métis and claims of the Eastern Métis. Will Goodon, you support people clearly by leaving up the death threat against Lewis, a Métis government board member of MNBC. The death threat is still on this post. The comment is still on this post as we are doing this show. That's who you ally yourself with. You ally yourself with a lady who is not even Métis, who is on your wall continually attacking us, Alexandria being a card-holding member of the MMF, but yet this non-Métis is all over the wall, stirring up crap and actually attacking Métis. That's who you ally yourself with, Will.
So again, we certainly see a pattern here from Will Goodon where he tries to deflect from the hard questions, never gives an answers, and certainly is bashing a long-standing member of the Manitoba Métis Federation, myself, by not even answering questions from a citizen of your own governing agency.
And it seems like you prefer the chapstick media. You prefer those that will pucker up and kiss your ass because you refuse to come on to our show where you know damn well we're going to ask you the hard questions, and you will have to answer the hard questions on this show. If you're to come on to this show, we will ask you the questions, and we would want answers to those questions. We're not going to sugarcoat no questions for you just because we're hoping for some type of donation or financial funding that you may be able to arrange. And so, Will Goodon, your behavior is disgusting. It is repulsive. Yes, you should resign, especially instead of taking up for the citizens who may or may not support you. It doesn't matter. You still represent the Métis there in Manitoba. You should take up for all Métis, whether they disagree with you or not. And instead of allowing this infighting that is going on your wall, instead of allowing non-Métis to attack Métis on your wall, instead of allowing death threats against other people that's in government, the Métis government, on your wall, your actions are repulsive. From our last show, and not just that, even if he never came on our show, this is a threat against a Métis government official.
And you know what? Minister Will Goodon is also allowing, I know he's a stickler against people that are not Métis. He's even allowing a non-Métis individual to wage a personal vendetta against me and attack me. Those are still left on. I'm not even going to dignify this person with giving their name, but I would recommend this individual who is a non-Métis, never been a member of the MMF, or cannot be a member of any Métis organization because they are not Métis. I would suggest that they sit with an elder. And
why should they sit? They're not even Métis.
Well, this person obviously has a personal vendetta against me, very slanderous comments against me. He's allowing also non-Métis people to post slanderous posts on his wall. That's not the caliber of a leader.
And what is slander? Slander is things that are not true. And again, there is at least 2 people go on Will Goodon's wall that have posted things that are not factual about us. And so let me just explain something to you. When people post things that are not true, that is slander, and that they can be held accountable in a civil court if we decided to go that way. Now, here's the thing. That is wrong for Will Goodon. Like you said, one of the people is not even Métis, but yet this individual goes on his wall attacking Métis. I mean, Will Goodon should actually just he's aligning himself with non-Métis and allowing them to attack actual members, card-holding members of the MMF, run their mouth, and this person has no business in the conversation because, 1, they're not Métis, and 2, they don't work for any media group out there to even be that I know of, to even be sticking their nose into the business in the first place. So why in the hell would this person be attacking you when they're not Métis? How is this right? Will Goodon, how in the hell can this person go on your wall and slander and go against people that are actually Métis? Because this argument is about Métis. This is a Métis conversation. If you're not Métis, keep your nose out of the conversation.
You know, and if you're not Métis, stay in your own lane. And there was another uneducated individual saying that I wasn't Métis. Well, you know what? Maybe educate yourself before you start talking out of your backside, because certainly if I'm not Métis and I have part of Will Goodon's family in my genealogy, then certainly Minister Will Goodon is not Métis. I have the MMF VP Leah LaPlante in my family tree. Certainly the VP for the MMF is not Métis then. So please, before you join a tickertade parade, do your research, because I am Métis. That is beyond dispute. So, I mean, if you're going to be uneducated, just stay in your own lane and do whatever you're doing, but don't join in the arena of actually Métis
defamation
people.
And slander.
Exactly.
Because when they say something like that about you that's not true, they don't realize they can be sued for that untrue statement. Yes, you can be sued for making a false statement against us. Now, typically, we just don't even acknowledge stuff like this. The only reason why we acknowledged it this time is because we were made aware of the physical threat comment that was made. And when we started looking into the conversation, that's actually when we seen the slanderous and defamation comments made about you. When people are posting things that are not true out there, they don't realize they're holding themselves liable for their actions, for their comments, and that is wrong.
Well, the individual that posted the slanderous comments about me, again, is a non-Métis. They've never belonged to any Métis organization because they're not Métis. So you have no business slandering a Métis individual. If you have a personal vendetta, get over it and mature up. And this is an older individual that should know better. And I mean, not everybody has manners or are brought up with manners, but people get involved in some kind of a ticker tape parade not knowing the facts. They just spew out absolute garbage. But like I've said before,
and the people's not buying it anyway, because we got so much support. And you know what? You're not going to stop us. You're not going to stop you're not going to stop the Metis Warrior train that's just bam. You're not going to stop us. We're on our way up, and there's no stopping us. As a matter of fact, we will actually be heavily involved with all elections. We're setting that up. We got people involved in all organizations that report to us, and guess what? You know, their own organizations don't even know it.
And I think we should give a shout out to the suspended Métis Nation of BC President Clara Morin Dal Col for sharing our video. She's actually shared it on her personal Facebook page. You'll see a screenshot. So thanks for sharing our video. And I mean, that says a lot. But I think before we go into today's show, we should go into a few things about Clara Morin Dal Col, who is the suspended Métis Nation of BC President. And this may shock you. And
hold on, all I want to say is this before you go into her pay. She's been out there complaining about the board members wanting a pay raise. Now, we've did a show on what the board members actually make, and it's really nothing. They don't make a whole lot of money, okay? But when we started looking into Clara's pay, good God, folks, and Alexandria is going to break this down for you. And if you live in the Métis Nation, or if you're in the Métis Nation of British Columbia, you really need to pay attention to what this lady's been doing, because a lot of this money could have went to actually benefit the Métis people. Break it down for me.
And again, you'll see screenshots. And you have to remember, too, that her travel and to and from the MNC events, that's paid by the MNC. So that's really high. But the presidential condo amounts to $20,000 per year. Her car allowance is $500 per month.
Hold on, I don't want to fly past these things. I want to sit there. So her condo expense is $20,000 a year. That's what she gets, right?
Right.
Now we're not even talking about the salary yet. So we're talking about $20,000. You sure?
Her condo expense is $20,000 per year.
Okay, so now we're talking about the condo expense there. Now the car expense is how much?
The car expense is $500 a month.
$500 a month for the car expense, folks. So for the homeless Métis out there, for the Métis who is suffering out there, for the Métis who gets peanuts out there, this woman is getting money for her condo, and we're not even into the salary yet, and for the car. Now keep going.
And this is an expenditure report for the period April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2020. For communications, she got $1,907. Legal and professional fees is $1,358. Again, materials and supplies $530. Per diems, can you?
Okay, so this per diems is something that's natural for people to get, but how much is the per diem?
Per diems is $6,080.
$6,080 in per diems.
Our reimbursed expenses $552.
Okay.
Salaries and remuneration. Remember that the board is really getting
peanuts.
Peanuts. Not even enough. Is not even a living wage. The board.
She complained that they wanted a raise. Now hold on. Before you even read the salary here. Here's what I want to do. I want you to understand that she's gotten condo money. She's gotten per diem. She's getting car money. She's getting travel. And what is the salary for Clara?
Her salary and remuneration is $118,085.
$118,000, folks.
That's just for salary.
So if you're Métis in British Columbia, now I want to put this in perspective. This is just her salary. $118,000. You got to be kidding me. No wonder this woman wants her job back. She's got her. Somebody making $118,000 has money for her car plus condo plus the $118,000 a year. And so let's understand this. And that's not all the money she's getting. Now think about it. If you're Métis, okay, and you're living in British Columbia, are you happy about that? $118,000? Now go ahead.
And this is the kicker for me. Travel and accommodations. This has always been a very sore spot with a lot of Métis organizations. The amount that they spend on travel and accommodations. $83,119. That's
$83,000
on top of her salary.
On top of her salary. So she's getting $83,000, and we got Métis out there that can't even pay their bills. She's got $83,000 for travel. And if you look back into our other show on what the board members were getting, her travel alone equals almost 3 board members' salaries combined. And this is a lady that had the nerve to complain that these people wanted a pay raise, and she's sitting there just, feed me your money, feed me your money. And keep in mind, Métis people of British Columbia, this is your money. This is your money. This is not her money.
But just listen to this, and this is something to ponder. The condo was paid for as an expense by the Métis Nation of BC. She did not claim it as a taxable benefit. So that's something that the Canadian Revenue Tax Department would determine. So that's something very different there in regards to taxes. So I mean, this is just,
it's insane.
It's just insane that no wonder why she's fighting to keep her position as president.
And that's not all. To my knowledge, I heard something about Wi-Fi being paid too, but we don't have that, I don't think. I believe it is on the and we'll put the link down in the description to the pay thing if you want to go in there and read that. But what I want to do real quick is I want to do the math for you people. Now start with her salary. What's her salary again?
Her salary is, just a minute, I'm going to go into it again. Her salary is $118,085.
$118,000. I do it. $118,085. Plus, what was the travel?
Travel and accommodations is $83,119.
119. And what's the condo?
The condo here, just a minute, I'll get into the condo. Is her condo amounts to $20,000 per year.
And what's the car?
Car allowance is $500 per month.
$500 per month.
Yeah.
Times 12 months. So, all right, 10 is 5,000. So that's $6,000 a year for the car.
Mm-hmm. So,
folks, here's the number so far that we got that she's taking in yearly. $227,085. No wonder this woman wants her job back, because she's not through screwing the Métis in British Columbia yet. Of course she needs her job back, right? And this is somebody that Will Goodon supports in having this position. $227,085. For the folks living out there in British Columbia, what I want to explain to you is this. You may have trouble paying your bills. This woman don't have trouble with anything. Traveling, nothing, because she's taking the tax dollars that's supposed to go to the Métis people, $227,000. I mean, good God, man, that could do a lot of good for the Métis people. As a matter of fact, if you subtract what her salary should be at the high end should be no more than $75,000. That will leave $152,000 to be divided amongst the Métis in British Columbia. And this woman wants her job back. Who in the hell in their right mind would vote for an individual that is just screwing the Métis in British Columbia?
Well, this is a suspended president, Clara Morin Dal Col, that has gone the route of the colonial system instead of going to the Senate. And really, she's living at large off the backs of the Métis people in BC during a time of COVID, where people are struggling to put food on the table, people are struggling to have housing, what have you. She's living at large off of money that could be best used for Métis people in BC. It's disgusting. And she also has a website out there. I wonder who's paying for the website where she's able to inform people. I wonder, can you guess who's paying for her website?
Well, I don't know. Is it Chartrand? Is it Goodon? Is it Chartier? And there needs to be change, folks. There has to be change in our Métis governments, especially in Manitoba. A lot of people know Alexandria in Manitoba because obviously she is Métis. She's done a lot of events and things of that nature in Manitoba, and her genealogy is completely undisputed as far as, again, even in her genealogy it lists Will Goodon. But and that's not something she's proud of, because again, we are calling for Will Goodon's resignation. But he's not the only one that we wish to resign. But we're going to deal with those one individual at a time, because obviously people have a lot of support for Will Goodon. Why? Why do you support an individual that supports physical harm and threats made in the comments on his post on his wall, and he's left them up all this time? Okay? And it's something I want to tell people out there. No matter if you agree with the information you hear in our show or not, it does not need to come to the point where physical threats are made. It just doesn't need it. And this ain't like two friends. It ain't like this person knew Lewis, and what was happening was they got into an argument. You know how sometimes friends can say stupid stuff to each other? No, she doesn't know Lewis at all. And whatever, because we don't know the person, because we don't see the profile picture other than a pickup truck and the information that they put on there. But what we will say is that it should never come to the point of physical threats. Now, we have guests on that may agree with our views or disagree with our views. In today's show, we're covering different topics. And no, it doesn't mean that our guest from one topic agrees with the views that we just had on another topic. I got to say that for the people out there that are going to want to try to interrelate everything, okay? And so let's have some common sense here. If you ever in your life have watched a news story, you have seen the news cover a variety of issues in the show. And that is what we're doing in today's show. And it doesn't mean that this story supports this story. So let's just have some common sense. Now we're going to talk about something that's a little bit on the, actually in Alberta, and going into Region 1.
But before we go into that, I just want everybody to know that there's so many people that are they're trying to get truth out there. They're trying to get transparency, they're trying to get accountability, and this is what happens to them. That's why people are afraid. They get attacked on social media. Again, you got Minister Will Goodon leaving physical violence threats on his personal Facebook page. That is disgusting. But the truth has to come out there. There are brave people that are trying to speak the truth about what's going on with their Métis organizations, and we thank each and every one of you. And what we're going to get in today is the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 1. And I want everybody to understand what really needs to happen is a forensic audit. There's no doubt about it. That's the only thing that needs to happen. And it's actually interesting, and you'll hear our guests speak on this topic at more great length, where it would appear that they've created an elaborate web of corporations that it becomes very like a spider web. It becomes difficult to trace where the money comes from and where the money goes. And I know Grace really is wanting a forensic audit on the Conklin Métis Board, Region 1, that's Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 1, Local 193.
She's not the only one wanting that forensic audit. There's several people that's wanting it. As we looked at all the research that they have done and sent to us, we can say this. It is very confusing. That's why there needs to be a forensic audit done, because we don't know what's going on. This is just commonplace to try to silence people from speaking out. Now, I can't sit here and say in this show for sure if anything in this corporate web going on that's illegitimate. But what I can say is that you'll listen to their story, and they believe that it's definitely a web of deceit, fraud, and definitely it appears, even to us, it appears that there's money laundering going on here. How corrupt is the government in Conklin? And that would be, is the government even involved in some of this stuff? We don't know. And so we're asking for a forensic audit along with our guests so that we can have better understanding of this, because it does look confusing.
And really what needs to happen in the Métis Nation of Alberta is all leaders of the locals and members, again, must request the forensic audit. Everybody's name has to make up the collective rights, and everybody has a right to know why this abuse is continuing, knowing Region 1 leaders are aware, as well as the provincial presidents. And you'll hear our guest speak of, apparently, Audrey Portress, who is the president of the Métis Nation of Alberta, is well aware of everything that is going on there.
It seems like she don't give a shit.
Well, for some reason, Audrey Portress does not want to step in and try and get involved. And
well, we're going to ask her why.
And one of our guests, too, is that they'll be going collecting signatures as well. And you'll see a link in the description of the video where they've started a GoFundMe, and it's the name of the GoFundMe, Legally Fighting for Métis Collective Rights. And then again, you'll see the link trying to, what happens is...
Well, let me explain the GoFundMe, the importance of the GoFundMe. The importance of the GoFundMe for them is the fact that they've been threatened with legal action to try to silence them. Obviously, this is what we're being reported, and we've seen this happen at least when one of our guests was taken to court, etc. So they don't have the money to combat these people in the court system, because it gets quite expensive for people who are trying to speak out and bring some transparency. Now, yeah, the GoFundMe, if you want to donate to it, you can donate to it, and that would help them be able to get some legal support. Also, if there's a lawyer out there that wants to take on these people who are using the system to oppress and silence people, then please get in contact. Coran Pruden.
Yes. And another thing, one of our guests, Grace, it's very important, Grace's goal, and you can hear the passion in her voice, and she spent so much of dollars that she really doesn't have to get all this research. Grace Richards' goal is to expose the leadership for mismanagement of funds and have a forensic audit done on the Conklin Métis board. And throughout the show, you're going to see screenshots of information that Grace and Coran has come up with. And these are two women that are a force to be reckoned with. They're standing up for corruption, transparency, and accountability. And again, the first thing that when people are caught in a web of corruption, they lash out with, threatening to sue, because they have the funds. They're using Métis funds that are best used for Métis people to scare and silence individuals that want to speak the truth.
Well, let me clarify that. I'm not sure that they're using Métis funds to do this. Maybe they are.
Through the corporate web? We don't know.
Well, the corporations, yes, we don't know. And so that's why I want to make that clear, that we really don't know where the funding is coming from for the lawyers that's used to silence the people. But what we do know is the people that are standing up and wanting to speak out. And again, instead of all this colonial back and forth, lawsuit here, lawsuit there, why not come together, sit at a table, have a discussion, and just explain the things? Actually, they were trying to get the financials explained to them, and they were basically told, screw off. That's what it amounted to, was basically, piss off. So,
And you'll hear too in this interview, and you'll see proof of it, where they're even they're getting away with breaching their own bylaws. They're saying that the individuals have to pay to look at the books when their bylaw says that the books should be made available for viewing for anybody that's a citizen, but they're making people pay to view the books.
Yes, and we're going by what our guests have told us here and what we've seen on certain paperwork, and it is, we are still looking into this paperwork, because there's one name that keeps appearing on this paperwork that's very interesting to us, and it seems to be linked to some of these corporations. The same name keeps showing up. However, we're not going to mention the name in this show because that's a whole different show, and so trust me, we are not done looking into this yet.
And before we get right into what our guests have to say and what they've uncovered in their ongoing investigation, I just want to make this statement, and it's something that I personally, it's my opinion, but I certainly believe in it. And make no mistake, Métis citizens, the Métis National Council, MNC, and the MMF, they're all about protecting their brand. They call it a brand. The brand is the Métis Nation, not the Métis people.
Not the Métis people, because you got to understand, we just gave a perfect example of what the suspended president was making. So over $227,000 a year it totaled up to be. So let's understand this. It's only a handful of people that are really benefiting off this tax dollars that's supposed to go and be evenly divided to the Métis people. And so there is some severe answers on corruption, fraud, and lies, outright lies. There is I mean, good God, this just going back and looking into the real estate thing here, it boggles my mind. And again, that's a whole different show. And we've been gathering a lot of stuff for a lot of shows here in the future that's going to open your eyes even more if you're not familiar with our past shows. But we want to thank everybody that does support us out there and that does keep listening to the shows. And yeah, we the Métis people can control the elections. You have the numbers already, so the numbers are there. You just got to make sure that there's transparency and fair voting, and we can make sure that the money goes and is split fairly. So we will be looking into the elections. Trust me.
So, folks, again, you'll hear our interview with two brave Métis women in Alberta. Again, please look for the GoFundMe in the description of the video as well. Donate if you can. It's a good cause, folks.
Okay, folks, we're here with Grace Richards. She's out of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 1, and let me tell you, it seems like there's a web of corporate deception, maybe. There's a lot of, seems like money that is not making it to the financial reports. And when I say a web, I mean a huge web, and there's so much paperwork that Grace was able to obtain. And she's going to shine a little light. And it's very important to realize that if you're a member of the collective, and we look at things as a collective, it's very important to realize that you're being used to generate money, but is that money coming back to the collective? And that's what Grace Richards is here to shine some light on. And if things appear to be that some of the money may not be making it back to the collective. So Grace Richards, thanks for joining the show, and welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And I think, Grace, too, before we get into the show, you know, we've done other shows on Métis organizations that use numbered companies in order to sort of take funds away or to divert funds to other uses, and you know, not including the Métis individuals that so deserve that. And when Timothy was talking about a web, it would be almost like a Black Widow's web, corporate web, where money is being diverted away from the much needed Métis people in Alberta. And again, you're part of Local 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's what we're here to talk about with you, Grace. We're here to talk about the appearances and what seems to be very possibly some shady activity going on out there. So let's go ahead and shine a little bit of light on that for us, if you would.
Okay, yes. Well, for me, it began when I wanted to, I requested to see financials from our local, and they kept putting me off. And then at one point, I was told that, okay, if I wanted to see the financials, I would have to pay for this myself. So I thought, well, okay. So after a few days of thinking, I did call a lawyer for, the half-hour free consultation.
Right.
And I told them what I was doing, and what they suggested was to start with corporate searches. And to me, at that time, I did not know what that meant.
Right.
So I started with a corporate search on our local.
Hold on, Grace. Let me. I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I want to do before we get past the point, even before we get into the web of corporate, this major mess of a web of corporations here, what I want to do is talk about something that's not right that you just mentioned, because if your organization is refusing to show you financials, if any organization is refusing to show their members financials, that in itself is wrong. That's a whole separate complaint. That is wrong. And then when they get the attitude to tell you, as a member, you have to pay to see the financials, that's a bunch of BS. And so why in the hell did you have to pay to see the financials? That is wrong. And I know we're about to get into this web of corporations and stuff like that that's going on, but I wanted to stop and acknowledge the fact that what you just said was injustices to you as a member, and I wanted to make sure to point that out and acknowledge that. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but please go ahead.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to give up. And yes, I did. I went to registries, and I got a corporate search done on our Metis local, and this was back in 2016. And in 2016, I did not know, that was the first time I'd ever seen what a corporate search looked like. But I was looking at it, and as I was looking at it, I could understand the words that said holding shares in.
Right.
So I went back to the office at registries, and I said, so what does this mean, holding shares in? Well, those are for-profit organizations. And I said, okay, is it possible to get this information? Information to see who's the shareholders, and just whatever information I could find on it. So in 2016, what this year's search was done, 2016-9/30. And what I found there was holding shares in a numbered company with Buffalo Metis Corp and Arbicor Resources.
Right.
So when I did financial a search on there, so now I find there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shareholders, presidents, and locals. So in actual fact, you would have 10 shareholders.
Right.
So when I questioned our Metis local at an AGM, I questioned this Arbicor Resources, and why is our local president a shareholder as well as the Metis local? Because when you're a shareholder, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're a shareholder, any profits made, you collect on that, right?
That's what a shareholder is, that you collect shares in the entity that you are a holder of.
And you're saying the collective is shareholders in these businesses, am I correct?
Yes, they make the local shareholders as well as themselves.
Right. And so
Through the businesses that I've done.
okay.
And the thing that I question, and very very much is the fact that none of this stuff is ever put on the financials, the yearly financials that are presented to the community at an AGM.
Now let's look at that point right there. Okay, so you've done tons of research on this, and I know that for a fact because we've been given I can tell you folks, we have a lot of paperwork that Grace has been able to dig up here, and I can tell you that what we're looking at here, and pay very close attention to what she just said. Okay, so we're talking about the collective being shareholders as well as themselves, and so this money, the profits that were being made, you're saying has not made it onto the financials. So if it hasn't made it onto the financials, where has the money gone? One, and two, what is the dollar amount, do you know, that was made off of those shares?
No, I don't have the exact amount, but the thing is that it's their shares. They're shareholders. And now the thing is, now by doing this, what they have done is they've taken our collective rights and transferred it into individual rights for profit.
That's it. I think you've said the whole crux of what's happening there in a nutshell. So that's exactly what's going on.
Yes, I'm finding out.
Can I ask you this question? I kind of want to go back to the beginning here. When you said that when you asked them for the financials, they did not want to show you the financials. So I really want to go back to the beginning. Is it policy for them to charge people to view the financials? Because that seems ridiculous to me.
No, I don't believe it is. And what it was if I wanted to see the financials, I would have to go into Fort McMurray to where the accountant's office is, and for whatever cost it cost me to view those financials.
But wouldn't they already have a copy at the local of the financials, or no?
Exactly what you would think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing is in our Métis bylaws, these financials are supposed to be held in a place in the community for the members to view at any time upon request.
Alexandria has something she wanted to say.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Grace, isn't this true that all, and this pertains to the Métis Nation of Alberta, all the meetings, books, financials are supposed to be open to the citizens per bylaw 21.12, 47.12, and 66.12?
Yes, exactly.
And so that they're not even following that. They're not even following the bylaws. So we have huge issues here with the local, for sure.
Yes, and as far as I know, bylaws are put in place for us to adhere to, so that we have some sort of governance. Bylaws right now is what we go by.
Exactly, and they're not abiding by those bylaws, which is a violation they're violating their own bylaws. So that is the main point there, the first point that we wanted to go back to that you was mentioning. One, their refusal to show you this. Their refusal to me, in my opinion here, is that they're hiding something. That's what it looks like. And so you suspected that as well. And so you started doing some digging. And when you started doing digging, you found out the collective was being used as shareholders. And the profits from the stocks have not made it back, or from the shares, I should say, have not made it back to the collective financials, which is a huge, huge problem. I mean, you know, that is, and there needs to be answers here.
Yes, and that's what I would like, is some answers.
Well,
to me, this is what you would mismanagement of funds.
Exactly. Like I said, all the locals should provide their financials to their members, and none of the books should be confidential. And the collective has a right to know where funds are being spent and where the funds are being utilized.
Yes, exactly. So I question this. I would like to see where all this money is coming from. And when I questioned this, it was, well, if you want to see it, it's all that information is with the accountant in Fort McMurray, and you will have to pay for your own cost to go there and see them. And if it's a cost to show you the book, well, then that's what you have to pay.
Can we ask you what the cost was?
Thought, well, okay. Pardon me?
How much was the cost for you to obtain those financials?
Oh, I didn't even go down that road. That's when I discussed it with a lawyer, and the lawyer was the one that told me to start with corporate search.
Okay. And I want to speak to the collective for a minute. If they're listening to this show, you need to provide you need to have a copy there first, so that when people come in and they request to see them, they have every right to request to see them, and you need to show it to them and not give them a smart ass answer about they need to pay out their own money to go get to see the accountant. That's a bunch of BS right there, right off the bat. And that right there actually, that don't sit well with me at all. But let's go more into what you found and discovered in your search.
Okay. So when I did a search on one of the other locals that was tied into it, I found in that local that definitely there were identical, a couple of identical companies. So you could see that now that's when you start to realize there's a web here. Because now if you really wanted to do further, the local that you do the search on, you see how many companies they're holding shares in, and then you go and you ask for the information you want to see who the shareholders are. And that's where you get a lot of information. Who's the shareholders? You don't get a copy of the financials. You have to go to corporate registries in Edmonton to request these financials. It is public information. It's just at this point I'm still lost in this web. Like today I've been at this for 3-4 days in a row now, and getting all this information. So I'm just kind of jumbled.
Okay.
Is this a true?
I'm really fast.
Is this Grace?
Okay,
Go ahead. Is this a true statement? And I'm just reading this. That maybe you can tell me if this is true. Are the Region 1 leaders asking its members to sign an oath of confidentiality?
Yes, when they attend the region meeting.
Okay, so if you were
That's from what I hear as well.
Okay, I'm just curious about that.
As well.
So why does everything have to be confidential?
Well, this is a question that I'm asking too. Like, I've been to meetings here in this community, and they've told me it was in camera. Why is it in camera? This is supposed to be public info. This is, what have you got to hide? So when I heard of somebody having to sign an oath of confidentiality at the region level, now this makes me wonder, why are they trying to silence our collective?
Well, I mean, that's the par for the course. That's what they try to do. We find out that people try to silence people. They try to silence people by intimidation. They try to silence people by accusing people of slander. They try to silence people by all kinds of threats, by going after what's going on in your personal life or whatever. That's what we found across the board with a lot of the leaders, when this is not about somebody's personal life. This is about what's going on in the community, and instead they want to make all these attacks on people. And we're not just speaking about what's going on in your area. We're generalizing across the board as to what we found in all of our shows.
Yes, I know. I have in the past. I've gotten a letter from our local lawyer saying they were going to have me sued for defamation of character for sharing a post that I saw on Facebook about the Conklin community and the housing situation.
That's
So I thought, well, go ahead. You know, I didn't. I just shared this. Like, you want to take me to court? Go ahead.
It's
if
unreal.
If I take me to court, I bring out this information. The bonus for me.
Yeah.
But Grace, I have a question too, because you know, people are saying, or I don't know if that's true. Maybe you can enlighten us. That the president of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Audrey, says that she can't get involved in the locals, and then it's being said that the people that separated from the Métis Nation of Alberta are still using the Métis Nation of Alberta locals, and that's through these companies.
Yes, these people that wanted to separate back in 2018,
right,
or was it early 2019 when the leaders in some of the leadership, I believe there were 7 locals in our region 1 in Alberta that gathered in Fort McMurray to sign documents. You know, they were going to separate from the Métis Nation.
Right.
At that point is when our Métis leader, for some reason, didn't follow through with signing any documents. For some reason at that time. So they decided they wanted to pull away, but yes, they still use the Métis Nation collective when they do their agreements with industry and government.
Right.
And so the industries and the government, are they aware that these people have pulled away? And they're
This is my question. This is another question that I'm wanting answered as well. To my knowledge, I'm under the assumption that they don't, because the federal government only recognizes the Métis Nation of Alberta as the sole representative of the Métis in Alberta. So these associations, they will still have their MNA card, represent their Métis local, but transfer all these funds into their associations.
So that sounds like money laundering. I'm just saying what it sounds like. I mean, you know, obviously we'd have to look more into it. But yeah,
this is. I'm not. For me, my knowledge of money laundering, I have no idea. But to me, if I was to take a guess, it would look something like this.
Yeah, that's what it appears from what the explanation that I'm hearing right here. It definitely appears to be some type of money laundering going on there. If you're saying that you're saying that they wanted to separate, but they haven't actually separated from the MNA, right?
They haven't actually separated from the MNA because there's only one person out of the leaders that actually handed in their Métis card. The rest of them, none of them have.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we're wrong about the money laundering part, but I mean, it does sound like that, though.
It does to me sound like that. So, and I was doing a little bit more research on our community. So, and as I was looking for more searches, I come along the Conklin Métis Community Association.
Right.
Now, in order to be a local, you have to have the Métis Nation. Yeah, so, like I said, I did a search more on our Conklin community, and I found a Conklin Community Association that was formed in 2018. But there was never any financials filed on it or things like that. And that search was done just this last summer. These locals that chose to leave the Métis Nation of Alberta.
Right.
They still have their Métis cards. They still go to industry representing the Métis Nation of Alberta local, but then when transfer funds into their association.
Okay, I want to be clear here, because I'm trying to understand here. You're saying that there are locals who have left the Métis Nation of Alberta. Can we say what locals exactly have left the Métis Nation of Alberta?
I don't have that information in front of me, but I did dig it up on a newspaper article. That's something I'd have to go and check in the file cabinet for. So I don't want to say exactly which one, but one of them for sure is the Mackay, the Fort Mackay.
Fort Mackay Métis, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so they're still using, even though they've separated from the Métis Nation of Alberta, they still go to industries and represent themselves as being a part of the Métis Nation of Alberta. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, because isn't the Métis Nation of Alberta and Fort Mackay, they're going to court, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So I mean,
and from what and from what my assumption is, the reason that it's still an ongoing issue is because of the COVID situation.
Right.
A lot of court cases have been postponed. That's another thing that I'm assuming. I'm under the assumption of.
But here's the thing, because previously, like if we rewind 3 minutes back, you said that the locals that separated are representing themselves as Métis Nation of Alberta members, and then now you were saying that you believe they are.
No.
Now, I want to just be clear here: are they or are they not?
Yeah. No. What I said was they go to government and industry representing the Métis Nation of Alberta local.
Oh, okay, okay. So they're saying that but the locals not a part of the Métis Nation of Alberta anymore.
No, the locals are still there, and this, I believe, is one of the issues that Audrey is going to court with the Fort Mackay Métis President. Is because who has the rights to the Métis local in Fort Mackay? Right.
I had another question for you too, Grace, in regards to the Region 1 leadership. Do they, as a rule, approve financials without an AGM? Is that something that's normal, or are they just doing that, approving financials without an AGM?
Okay, I believe that the Region 1 accept the local financials based on good faith.
Okay.
Under the assumption that these are true and correct.
Wow, that kind of doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me at all.
Anybody could put a number, any kind of number on there, and in good faith they're just going to accept it.
Well, I think this is what's been happening for years. Nobody's ever really questioned any of their financials. I've over the years, I've heard that people, like other community members, saying that there's funds that they're spending our money. How come they're making so much money? I don't know. So now it all makes sense, is because now they have all these numbered companies for profit, or these other companies holding shares in these other companies. And the reason why I have to go to corporate registries for those financials is because they're for profit.
Right.
Okay.
So I think what really needs to happen is a complete forensic audit.
We requested in 2018 for a forensic audit on our Region 1, and the leadership at that time said it was not a good idea because the past leadership before election cleaned out the bank account type of thing.
Yeah. Well, then we need to push
But I'm
to have that audit.
it's something that needs to be pushed because I do believe that bank account has grown since.
Yeah, and it appears from what the documents that you've sent us and the conversations that we've had, it appears that, and you can see it with your own eyes, why is the money not making it onto the financials? And let's go back to something that you discovered before, where you said something about 300,000 here and 150,000 there. Could you elaborate more on the 300,000 and 150,000?
It's let me see if I can. Okay, let's go here to the 350,000. This was collected in 2017. March 10th, 2017, November 28th, 2017. Métis Nation of Alberta, Local 193, 300,000 and 150,000.
Okay, that was collected.
I've never seen any of this. Yes, so there you can see it is supposed to be given to the collective.
Right. And so, but it's not on the collective's financial report as to where any of this money went. Am I correct?
There's nothing there that says that Nash Corporation this money, unless they put it under a different company because of this corporate web that they've created. I don't know.
Right.
All I know is what's in front of me. And then in the small letters underneath there, to reverse 2015 and 2016 partnership income recorded in 2017. This is a question that I wanted to ask someone. Like, this is all new to me, but I'm still trying seeing the bigger picture just by looking at this. I'm not an accountant, but if a person took the time and read this over and over, they would see something all the time.
And I think the point here is that you shouldn't even have to do this, that the financials should have been provided. But it seems to me that even had they given you the financials, that a lot of this wouldn't even probably even be mentioned anywhere on them, which is a huge problem. And it's a big sign of corruption, it's a big sign of fraud, and it's a big sign of lies if none of this information is on there, if indeed this money has actually made it to the locals.
Exactly. Like, this is when they talk about transparency and accountability. What is it exactly? Is there a limitation on the transparency and accountability?
Well, I mean, hell, what transparency and accountability? Where is it? Where's the transparency? They're telling you to take the trip and pay for the financial report that they should already have on file.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. To me, this is not transparent, not at all, and especially like. When a person says they want to see the financials, those are supposed to be in a place where it's open to the public and able to view at any point in time. I should be able to walk into a place and ask to see the books, and they'll say, "Okay, yes, right here. Here they all are."
Well, I'll tell you what. I know a good way for all of us to see the financials. We can all see them. Let's just have that audit done. Let's have a forensic audit done, and then find out exactly where everything's going.
Yes, that's exactly what should be done.
Yeah, but you know what? The question has to be asked too. I mean, they're not even honoring and following their own bylaws. Again, going back to specifically Article 58 and it's 58.1, where the regional council shall ensure that all necessary books and records of the regional council required by these bylaws or any other applicable status or law are regularly and properly kept. So, and then in regards to everybody should have access to that. I mean, the bylaws that they have created are meaningless because they're not even following their own bylaws.
That's right. How do you hold accountable when they're not following the bylaws?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems that exactly, and things creating this corporate web, and I think it's to create confusion, diversion, because not everybody's going to be like you, Grace, take the time, the effort, use their own personal money to do all these searches. Any person would just give up, because if they're not an accountant, they would just get lost in this web. And I think that's one of the reasons they created this corporate web, where people would just give up and say, okay, I give up, this is too confusing, where money is being funneled, diverted, channeled to here and there, and it's not going to the people. And I mean, it's just another way of.
Well, let me ask you this: is your local serving the people in your area? Are they doing what they should be doing for the members, the Métis out there? Are they doing what they should be doing?
No, they're not doing what they should be doing. One of the things that they should be doing is being more transparent with their financials, to show us where the money is coming from, how much money is in there.
Well, if
why is it we cannot?
Exactly, and if things are as they appear, which is money laundering, and they're so secretive about the financials, then we have no option at this point but to proceed and request the audit be done, a very thorough audit with all the information that you've already dug up, so that we can see exactly what is going on. Is this indeed money laundering? Is this indeed fraud? In the depth of corruption that this appears to be. Now, we could be wrong, and if we are wrong, and anybody hears this and they want to come on to the show and they want to dispute this or say their side and what they believe is the truth, then they're invited to do that. But however, from everything that we've seen, we can only tell you what the appearances are, and we agree with you on what you believe to be true, which you believe it to be, that there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and you have requested the audit, and we're going to help make sure that an audit happens there. Okay, we have Corinne Pruden joining us, so she's here to help back up and validate some of the concerns that Grace Richards has. And so, Corinne, welcome to the conversation, and we'd be curious to hear what you have to add to this story so far.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I was actually kind of excited to get on here with Grace, because we've been kind of collaborating together in regards to these MNA locals in our region, and we do have a lot of important issues as collective members, and not just for ourselves, but all the collective members in Region 1.
Yeah, because there seems to be a lot of concerns out there, and it's great that yourself and Grace are sort of taking up, and I mean, there needs to be more individuals that are standing up for truth. And I think it's important that, this information needs to get out to the MNA members. And again, we discussed when we were talking with Grace, how Métis Nation of Alberta members, they're entitled to see or view the books. It's in their bylaws, and they're not even following their own bylaws, for God's sakes.
Yes, Article 58, books and records, it states in section 58.1 and 58.2. I don't know if, I don't have it on hand exactly what it says, but that's, if you're in good standing, you're entitled to see the books. And see, the biggest issue for us is that we have an executive secretary for our Region 1.
Right.
She was voted in after the election in 2018, November 6th. There was, we had a meeting, and what ended up happening was they were asked to show their financials and bring their books in and whatever else by the new regional president and vice president, and they didn't want to. So what ended up happening was the following meeting, the next regional meeting, Audrey happened to be the chair of the meeting. So what ended up happening was they ended up leaving the meeting and stated it was an illegal meeting. So Audrey got upset and stated that there was enough quorum to have an election. So was elected as the secretary of Region 1.
Right.
And when she started asking about the financials, like for, different locals, she wasn't allowed to see them. So then she asked if she could review the books. And she's the executive secretary. And she's entitled to see all the books because that's her job. She was escorted out. She was escorted out by police. And she happened to have another member with her. And this member happens to be another Region 1 member. But unfortunately, they stated that she wasn't allowed to view the book. They didn't even bother to ask. They didn't even know which sections of the bylaws to refer to. They just automatically called the police. So that's when we started saying, okay, well, if the executive secretary isn't even allowed to view the book, there's something terribly wrong here. And she's being ousted in, but here's locals that have misused and misrepresented our MNA collective inherited rights by the millions, and they're allowed to sit at regional table, and yet we have our secretary who's been a volunteer of a local for 20-some years and never stole a dime, has always been open book, has always been transparent, isn't allowed to see any of the books.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think that there's any level of the government that may be participating in this shady behavior? Because what I don't understand is how the police can get involved in an issue like this. And here's a prime example of the colonial system being used. Métis using the colonial system against other Métis. Y'all are not even they're not even following our own rules. They're not even following their own rules. And this is being allowed. So what we're asking for is a forensic audit. And if the government officials that are local there are participating in any form of corruption, we're going to bring that to the light. And so do you believe that there's any government officials that's participating in this shady behavior?
As far as I know, I'm aware, and we asked for a forensic audit just before the AGM in May 25th. When I have Otimso up on my page there. There's a report where Audrey is deliberating the books, the accounts. She's stating that these locals basically took millions, basically misrepresented and misused our MNA collectives and locals by the millions, but nothing was done. There was no follow-up whatsoever. Sorry, Grace, I'll let you go ahead if you need to. Okay? So what ended up happening was Audrey did a report. She found out there was how many different accounts. She found out that there was different time frames of the I guess you could say the money that was spent in Region 1 from 2014 to 2018. Millions of dollars. And here we are as collect members asking for, asking for what is ours, and we're told, no, there's no money. So this is the biggest issue here is that as collective, what are we being used for if we can't even use the money that is there set for us? When we ask for the book, they phone the police. When we ask for, the financials for locals, well, they're going to help the ones that are missing misusing and misrepresenting our collective rights for years. But when there's a local that's so honest, that volunteers all for 20 some years, and is the executive secretary, and they call the cops on her, there is something terribly wrong with this whole entire picture. And then we talked to Audrey about this numerous times, and she said she can't get involved. But the thing is, it starts from the top. It starts from the top. If she can take down other members years prior, and then take down, address these issues from years before, if she can get involved, these are collective rights. This has to do with all of us in Region 1. Now, if it was another region, I don't know if they'd get away with that. It's only in Region 1. There seems to be a pattern here of people misusing and misrepresenting our collective rights, and the reason why is nobody's being held accountable.
Let me ask you this question, because I want to clarify this, and just instead of saying they called the cops, to our listeners out there, who called the cops on the secretary?
It was whoever the receptionist was at the time. I'm not too sure who the name was, who was there at the time, because I just got this information from our local president, and she kind of stated that, well, they called the cops on her and she wasn't allowed to view the book. But she did not name names. She didn't tell us.
Right, but where was she at physically when they called the cops on her? Like, where was she at?
It was
repeat that one more time, please.
She was standing at the door.
The door where? At a local or where at?
She was standing at the door inside the building.
Inside what building, Corey?
Inside the regional office.
Oh, okay. That's what I was trying to clarify. All right, so here you.
The regional.
Okay, I got you. And so now that we understand that the colonial system was applied there, and she's not able to find out, has anybody reached out to Audrey and asked why this is going on, and has she been given a response to anybody?
We've asked, and I've asked, and there is no response. There's nothing at all. We don't get any feedback because I'm known as, well, I'm probably the most hated Métis in Region 1 as I speak right now, because I'm always asking questions. Even if we file complaints with the MJC, we're at arm's length here because she pretty much controls the checks. She controls, when they meet, she controls everything. So really, if we complain, are they going to, what's going to end up happening? Is she going to help her leaders? I don't know. That's the question. Is there justice for us, or I'm just baffled because no matter how much accountability we ask for, it's never given. And we can't get a straight answer. There's things just being covered up left and right. And for me, I'm not going to sit here and start calling people names and calling people down because it just doesn't serve, and I don't want to be on that colonial wavelength like everybody else. I'm just going to state the behaviors, what we feel, and as a collective member, not just in my region, but in the whole of Alberta, we as collective members, our names are being used, and they're going to industry and representing us. But when we ask questions, well, how much did you get? Are you meeting with industry? And these types of things, it's the same pattern as the ones that were in prior years did to us. And here we are, we're finding out that they're still using the MNA collective, the MNA local. So I'm going to leave that one on your shoulders there, Grace, and then you can explain the financials because it's part of your local. But my local is so transparent, so accountable. She abides by the rules. She's probably one of the most respected women in our community, and she's like a role model to us. And she would never lie to the people about a single cent. And she's a very good woman. She's an outstanding citizen.
Yeah, it just baffles me where it seems like where you're situated, and
Region 1.
Region 1, pardon me, Region 1. Why is Region 1 getting a pass? And it's almost like it's a Bermuda Triangle. Audrey doesn't want to get involved, and it seems like everything just goes into some kind of a black hole. There's no accountability, no transparency, no questions are answered. Like, I mean, it just kind of makes you wonder why nobody wants to a forensic audit is just a given with that, because there's so much going on there. And like I said, you had mentioned Article 58, and Article 58.2 says that all accounting records and other books and records of the regional council shall be kept at such place in province of Alberta as the regional council may decide, and shall at all times be open for inspection by any member of the Métis Nation. So why even have bylaws, specifically 58.2, if they're just, you may as well just use them for toilet paper, because they're not even honoring their own bylaws and articles in the bylaw. It's just like I don't even know. It's a dog and pony show, really, in my opinion.
Yes, and one of the things that I am suspecting the reason for not wanting to get involved is because now we realize there's a corporate web of companies.
And here's the thing, and I understand y'all's reluctance to mention names because of people that love to threaten lawsuits, love to use the colonial system against their own people and tie people up in court.
And I would recommend to all these leaders that maybe get a dictionary and maybe re-educate exactly what the definition, of collective rights are. And collective rights are different than individual rights. And collective rights are rights Canadians hold because they belong to one of several groups in society, meaning, and in reference to our show, Métis belonging to several groups in, and it says who holds collective rights in Canada: Aboriginal peoples, including First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. They may want to go back and re-educate themselves, because it's in my opinion, it seems that these individuals are, just following the colonial path and, really not honoring the collective rights as they should.
Well, I know my collective rights weren't acknowledged when I did request to see the financials of our conquest in Métis local, and I had written letters requesting this, and it was probably about a year went by, and requested in a meeting to see financials, and I was told that I could go ahead and view financials at my own cost if there was cost.
Let me ask you this: in this corporation web that we keep referring to, how many corporations in your research have you came up with that's involved in this web? What's the number?
So far, I have 8 involved.
8
but
corporations.
I know there's more because I have they're in other Métis locals. In other Métis locals, they have their own agreements for their own locals.
Right.
So when you look at the shareholders in those locals, there'll be other members that are shareholders.
Right.
But in our Conquin Métis local, as of the date on this one is as of June 11th, 2020, an annual return was filed.
Right.
And in that, according to that, this corporate search was done November 12th of 2020, the same year. We have on just off of our local 6 companies, 6 companies, and that's not including the Sash Corporation. With the Sash Corporation, you'd have 7. So there's still What if there's more that we don't know about?
Well, let me ask you this question. Have you figured out how much money is in question right now? And I know it's kind of hard to say because the collective is supposed to be shareholders according to the research that you've done. And how much of this, and it's probably hard to come up with a dollar amount, but what's the estimated dollar amount of the money that's in question that may be missing or it potentially even money laundered in your mind? What's the best estimate that you can give?
I really can't give an estimate at this point because right now the only information that I have is from the SAS Corporation. I don't have the financials for the other 6 companies that are branched off our local.
Right.
Again, that's because I lack of funds on my part.
Right.
And yeah.
And
so with information that I do have just on the SAS Corporation, there's an involvement of millions of dollars that are going through there, and that's only off one company. So I'm just kind of wondering how much is going through the other 6 companies that are branched off our Metis.
And what you're saying is the collective, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, but the collective does not seem to be benefiting off this money, although it is the collective that's being used to gain these. The collective is being used in this web of corporation for financial reasons, but it doesn't seem like there's being any financial benefit to the collective. And part of that reason that you have these questions is because they have not been transparent with the financial paperwork, and that led you to dig and you found a lot of inconsistencies. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. When you have a local that's been volunteering for 20-some years and is only has been transparent and accountable to the Lac-La-Biche region, Lac-La-Biche County, all her life, and has never become a millionaire in her local, and volunteers, doesn't get paid, and when these other locals are making millions and receiving millions, and not the collective, the leader. There is something terribly wrong here, and it shows that there is loopholes and there's flaws in our collective rights, and there's abuse as far as I'm concerned. Here we are having elders that are living in houses that are condemned. I look at Coughlin's housing. There's a family there, 19 people living in one, 3 generations. Coughlin for sure. There's elders here in Lac-La-Biche that are living in hotels. And when they go to the regional office and ask for, $200 for a gift card, and they're told you got to sign an oath of confidentiality before you can even get anything. There is something terribly wrong with our system.
Yes.
And when we ask our leaders, they ignore us and tell us, you know what, you're just a radical, Corianne. You're a loudmouth. You're a liar. I could take them to MJC and they'll still get away with preaching our own bylaws. There shows that there is something terribly wrong with our collective rights, and there's something wrong with our governance. And it starts at the top all the way down.
So they're breaking the bylaws.
That's all I gotta say.
They're not giving you the information that you're requesting, and the problem is that they're calling you liars. But however, they love the colonial system so much that I wonder how they're going to love the forensic audit since they support the colonial system. And that audit should actually shed a lot of light. And for all of our listeners that's in Region 1 in Alberta, I'd just like to say that this should concern you, that this amount of money is potentially missing, laundered, or wherever in the name of the collective, but you're being made to sign confidentiality for what? In order to get a little bit of money while others are benefiting, it seems, really, really nicely.
And you know what? I'm going to add this. Audrey does have an obligation to her people in Alberta. She does not have an obligation to turn a blind eye to what's going on where you are in Region 1. Her responsibility is to her people, and she is not doing her job by refusing not to get involved. And again, we're talking about, when you're talking about investigation of nonprofit corporations, certainly this corporate web falls into grounds for investigation. The activities of a corporation are carried, one of them, on with the intent to...
They have been successful in silencing the people, one, with making them sign the confidentiality deal, and two, by intimidating them with trying to use some kind of colonial system to either, one, sue or whatever. And this has to stop, and it's going to stop, because we're going to reach out to Audrey and ask her why in the hell her and her chapstick groupies, and when I say chapstick groupies, I mean butt kissers, that here they give some money to a little bit of people, and they're going to support them to the death. And so she's got her chapstick groupies out there to support her. That why is she not looking at what the hell is going on and doing the right thing for her people all across Alberta?
You would think that this is a good enough excuse for her to do something, to step in and support her grassroots.
I mean, yeah, that's what the people in Alberta have to be questioning.
Exactly. Grassroots are supposed to have a...
Well, let me just put it this way.
Grassroots are supposed to be given the voice. And I honestly believe that all these locals out there, like the local presidents, should request a forensic audit like we did, the grassroots did, right after election. We wanted one. Audrey did the reports and he got the checks, and there was proof. There was proof. We have the proof. How come we're not doing nothing with this proof? Now we have these other presidents from other locals that have more proof, and now there's the corporate web, which is even more proof, and then we've got the grassroots that are speaking up and saying, hey, look, we've got all the proof, let's do something about it, and let's unite and say, you know what, this is abuse to our collective, right? Our names are being used, and nobody's doing anything. Come on, leaders, it's time to open your eyes and say, you know what, it's time for the truth and be transparent and accountable. It just has to be done. We don't need to name call them and call them down. Just say, you know what, all it is it's the simple truth. It's making integrity. And you know what, like when they talk about this constitution that's supposed to be coming into place here, you know, there's so many intelligent Métis people. They should be asking these intelligent Métis people and say, you know what, we should be basing this constitution on Harry Daniels' case, because the Harry Daniels case abides to the harvesting. The harvesting abides to align the Métis identity, which teaches traditional congruence, which is also sovereign laws that were here before colonialism. And that's one of the biggest things. We have lots of intelligent Métis people out there. Instead of just using 60, why don't you use all of us? All of us should have give some type of voice to this constitution, because this is something that's going to last for years to come, not just, you know, try and make it happen so fast. It should come to an assembly. Everybody should be involved. Leaders, members, elders, especially youth. And there should be a justice system that doesn't buy to the colonial laws. It should be a traditional justice system, not the colonial system. And that's where I'm at. I've been there since the last election. This is what I was trying to tell people, and they laughed at me. And I'm sitting here, you're all colonialized. You're all talking about dollars. Well, what about our sovereign laws? What about our traditional congruences? What about our ancestors? Like, hello? Where's everybody at? They're all seeing dollar signs. Whereas me, I was at Truth and Reconciliation years ago.
Yeah, but you know what, guys, and to our listeners too, the bottom line is there's no money in truth. So that's why people don't want to believe truth. They don't want to push the truth card because they can't make money off of it. So they don't want to hear the truth, and they're colonialized. And like I said, people see dollar signs, and it's really, really sad. And a lot of our leaders, again, forget that they were elected by their members to work for their members, and they're not doing that. And like, I agree with you that everybody has to have a voice at the table and be a part of it, not just some speaking for all.
And that's exactly what I believe. It has to be Indigenous worldviews, and it has to be our elders, it has to be our youth, it has to be the members that have never been given a voice in this region. There's over 4,000 members in this region. When there was only 660 some that voted, that's not a landslide. Where's the rest of them? You know what? They probably are just not interested in the system anymore because it hasn't done anything and it hasn't changed. Well, it has to change. Change has to happen. Yeah, it's happening slowly, but it needs to happen now, and they should be given a voice. Everybody needs a voice. I'm fighting for those ones that don't have never had a voice, the ones that have been shunned, the ones that have been told, you're not worthy of, anything in this region. I know that because I'm part of this Me Too movement, because I'm one of those women that have been silenced. But you know what? I have, as far as I'm concerned, I'm speaking for the ones that where money they don't save a few $200 in front of my face, and I'm voting for them. I'm sorry that $200 doesn't convince me enough. You show me 20 years of serving your people. Yeah, maybe then I'll vote for you. But don't fill your pockets and tell me that, there's no money in the books, but in the meantime, there's 15 people making millions. Come on now. People need to start opening their eyes and saying, you know what? This is not good enough. We need something else. This is something else that's going to work for not just some, but for all of us.
Absolutely.
Bottom line, we need a forensic audit done on our region.
Absolutely. That's a given.
And that's the point that we want to get out of this show. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Metis Warrior. We appreciate you joining us. And as always, please fight corruption, and every chance that you can, be honest, tell the truth, and ask the Metis organizations for transparency. And those that choose to support people who are threatening your fellow Metis brothers, sisters, and Metis government leaders, please, it is important that those people resign their positions. And I hope you enjoyed the show. That is it for us. Take care.